Hello everyone and welcome to the Animal Crossing and Mental Health PAX Online panel. We are super appreciative of everybody who is tuning in today and just taking out a chunk of their time to listen to us ramble on about this amazing little game. Just kind of before we jump into anything, I want to put a little disclaimer out that none of us here are mental health professionals or experts, and so everything here is kind of just a discussion on the benefits that this game has brought us and how it's helped people in the community over the years. So with all of that being said, I thought we could start with some little brief introductions on kind of like who we are and what we do, and kind of just how Animal Crossing came into our lives.
I can go if no one else wants to.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. My name is Lucy Mutimer. I am a 2D artist at a little studio called Ultimers, and outside of that I'm an illustrator who likes to draw fun things, and I've been in game dev for a few years now.
Awesome.
I will go then. Hi. I'm James Hester. I'm a games journalist that would like to make games one day, maybe, but right now I just write about them a bunch, and I like them a bunch.
Alright, I'll go next. My name's James Swinbanks. I used to review video games for GameSpot, and have written for IGN and Hyper back in the day. Now I just host a podcast called Video Game Small Talk.
Nice.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Clinnick. I'm a CEO at Looney Interactive. We're making mobile games for women's well-being.
And hello, my name's Sarah Crowe. I'm the community manager at Giant Army, and I'm also one of the co-owners of Patch Gaming. We're a mental health Discord support community.
Nice. And my name is Emily Shiel. I'm a freelance gaming writer and copywriter. A lot of the writing I do is about accessibility and the Oz indie game scene, so you can find me at Game Review mostly. So the first thing I kind of wanted to dive into was kind of what is it about Animal Crossing specifically that makes it so unique? Because I know that we've got other life simulators out there that still emulate those feelings of like accomplishment and goal setting, and you know, you've got like Stardew Valley and The Sims and stuff like that, but I feel like Animal Crossing is like its own genre, if that makes sense. So I don't know, what do you
I think my personal take on it is games like Stardew and Harvest Moon are stressful to me personally because there's a time limit involved and everything runs on time. I mean, Animal Crossing does as well to a point, but in Stardew, if you aren't here at X time, you might miss out on Y event. Whereas Animal Crossing, I think, really I can just go at my own pace and do what I want to do and play how I want to play. Like, if I want to be an interior designer, that's how I can focus my play style, or if I want to make a cool flower garden, I can focus my play style on that.
Animal Crossing, I always describe it to people who are like, what is this game, as it is a life sim for millennials who have always wanted to own a house and really enjoyed Beatrix Potter illustrations as children. Because it's a game, like springboarding off what James was saying, it's a game without deadline. There are events, but there's no negative consequences if you do not participate. So unlike, say, real life, if you are a millennial in this year, cursed year 2020, there's no consequences to not engaging. And there's no consequences to engaging either. So in a world filled with deadlines, it's nice to have a safe, quiet, at times, unless KK is there on a Saturday, space.
party time.
Where you can just engage and disengage without any negativity.
Totally. Sorry, I thought someone was going to go. No, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think it's one of the only games that I can think of where it does kind of give you permission to set how your day is going to go. And I think that is something that can sort of confuse people that are newcomers to the series, because I get like so many people saying, oh, like, what do I do? Or like, you know, it's kind of boring. And I think that it can be kind of a foreign concept to people that haven't played it before, but I think that's also one of the things about it that makes it so different.
Absolutely.
I mean, for that reason, I'd almost put it closer to something like Minecraft than I would other games like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, purely because it is really about playing how you want to play, making your own fun without any sort of set. You know, like in Minecraft, if you want to build a big cool tower, go build a big cool tower. If you want to build a whatever, or if you want to just kill stuff, that's fine. And in Animal Crossing, it's sort of similar. You play how you want to play without, you know, you're never told this is the game, this is how you're meant to play it.
I think that the comparison between Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing are very interesting because Stardew Valley was such an indie smash hit, and a lot of people describe it as wholesome, and you can do all of these banal, very human, mundane things like getting married or learn how to brew beer and things like that, but Stardew is still like saddled with capitalism, and Animal Crossing has got some trappings of capitalism, but it's still the cottagecore ideal of like you could choose how much you want to engage with that, or there's literally no punishment, whereas Stardew is like, your cows, they need food.
And you almost feel guilty in Stardew Valley when you're not doing the things.
You do.
Yeah, and bells in Animal Crossing are that easy to come by. It's like the capitalist ideal of like, I've got a bajillion bells, I'm gonna buy a toaster.
While I can sell my trash in Stardew Valley, and I do, I can. I feel like I'm rewarded for selling, like going to those adorable little raccoon boys, Tanuki boys, raccoon boys,
Tanuki raccoon.
Beautiful animal.
They're sweet little
creatures, little gumdrops,
sweet little lads, and going to them, and I can hand them 40 branches, and they're like, fantastic! You can have $1,000, and it's money has no real value in this game, which completely feeds into what Laura was saying. Now that I'm saying this out loud,
but I get nothing but affirmation in Animal Crossing. You wear a ridiculous outfit, someone says that it's cool. You sell garbage and they'll say thank you and they'll give you money for it. Stardew Valley is literally like, I busted my ass to brew this wine and no one tells me it's good. I just namelessly get money.
You really have to earn their affection as well.
The economic philosophy and like the emotional landscape of what's happening here in terms of, you know, commercial return and like, what is the economy and what are we saying? Like, Stardew Valley has, you know, Joja Mart and all the evils of gentrification. And Animal Crossing just has the simple question, are mortgages bad? Like, it's so much.
Yes, always yes.
So much smaller. Oh, and there's a great argument to be had about is Tom Nook a good guy or a bad guy, and how he's
that's
kind
a
of
completely separate
reformed, and like softened over time, and his image has been quite rehabilitated. But I do think that I want an economics major to talk to me about what these two different games are saying.
Yeah, totally.
You found a way to make me engage with economics, and that's brilliant in of itself.
I think the fact that there is no pressure to it is kind of like one of the things that makes it a consistent talking point when it comes to the connection it has with mental well-being. Because it does create those routines and that feeling of like safety as well. And like it's, for me, it's always, I'm always like, you know, it's there if and when I want to come back to it. It might be like covered in weeds, but it'll still be like my space. I mean, have you guys found that it's helped you at all in times of stress or things like that?
To be honest, that element of coming back to weeds and my animals being like, where have you been? I missed you, is like what's the number one reason that I haven't played in a month. Because and the longer I leave it, the guiltier I feel. So I almost feel like if I go back, I have to just nuke everything in order to not feel guilty, and I don't want to do that. So I guess it has that element as well.
Does the game push that on you though, or is that just sort of coming from your sort of own internalized? I've set this aside, and
Animal Crossing games really ramp up the guilt. Like the animals, when you talk to them, will be like, "What? Where have you been? We missed it. You haven't been around. Do you not like? Are you not our friend now?" Like animals have said that to me in the past. Apparently, it's better in this one, but like that pure thing of letting down my bestest friends in the whole world. And
All
the
the
fact that they
pressure
might
in the
be
world is
sad
on this
to
game
talk
now.
to them. I'm so sad to think that they miss me that much, and then I just make them miss me more, and I feel worse. And it's the cycle of I can't go back because I feel so guilty.
So and I think that's totally valid, because that's something that a lot of people I know have spoken about in the past as well. But then there's also an aspect to that where if you talk to them again afterwards, it's like nothing's happened.
Yeah, which
everything goes back to which it and maybe that's just sort of pushing a little bit on the edges of the game part of it, but also I think that kind of diffuses any of, or at least for me, it diffuses any of that tension that I may have felt around, have I neglected these characters at all? And because I think, and that's something that we haven't quite touched on yet, is that I think the characters in Animal Crossing take a lot of the brunt of where the charm in this game comes from, and which I think also just sort of ties into it's like aesthetically it's pleasing to look at, like it's the characters are all wonderfully drawn and creating this cartoon almost toy-like aesthetic, and it kind of provides almost this like slightly reductive, but this like almost dollhouse-esque like feel to it, where you don't have the choice of within the confines of the game, you don't necessarily have a choice of which characters come to your island, and but you can manipulate the island, and you can do things within this island and interact with those characters in a way that that feels kind of natural. And I think a big part of that, even just seeing them, they have little actions and things that they'll do. You'll see them running around in the square and enjoying themselves and just sort of
belting out rad little
fun,
tunes.
or they'll be there'll be a group of them singing, or they'll be chatting to each other, and if you go up and take part in any of those conversations, they're often really charming. It's often some of the best dialogue in the game. And I think a lot of those points for me, it's kind of an amalgamation of all of those things as to why Animal Crossing has such a unique flavor to it. And I think that's a big part of why I found it really beneficial. And just quickly, I want to touch on something else while I'm going at full steam here.
Yes!
There is a sense of structure to it, which is around, that KK is going to be there every Saturday, or on a Sunday if there's a bug off. That there's going to be 4 bug offs every year. That there's going to be, Red might show up at some point. And there are like some random events, obviously, but I think those are also good because then you have a bit of a surprise as well. And so there is, in some cases, I think, having that structure around, I can go and collect my 4 or 5 minerals today if that's what I want to do, or I can go and I can go diving and collect, a bunch of sea creatures that I don't have in the museum, or what have you. There's all these little tasks that you can put together that help, personally help someone like me who has suffered from pretty serious anxiety in the past, just to knuckle down and focus in on a task. And that, I know personally for me, really helps pull me out of a funk, or especially if one of the funny things I get with my anxiety is that the brain just starts running away with ideas, and if you can refocus that energy, I've always found Animal Crossing to be really good for that.
Totally. And it really kind of adds to sorry to cut you off, but I was just gonna say it kind of that's kind of why it fits into that genre of mindful gaming as well. So go, Lauren. Or
talking
Sarah.
About anxiety.
Sorry.
Briefly, just to touch on anxiety with what James is saying, I'm dubbing in the whole chat. We are anxious little macarons. And,
sorry.
And we don't aspire to feeling powerful with the games that we really like in terms of the emotional rewards that anxious profile people go for. We just want to feel safe, and Animal Crossing is physiologically and emotionally an extremely safe game, so it does a lot of heavy lifting when you're in uncertain, anxiety-inducing circumstances. When every day is a new horror, every day is a bad news day, Animal Crossing has got nothing but a nice letter from your mum and an ugly jumper from a dude on your island.
Yeah, I mean, like, every
That's
single
it.
animal on this island absolutely loves you to pieces and thinks you are the hottest shit.
Exactly.
Sometimes Animal Crossing is a game so specific in that, for my very anxious brain, that Lauren is rightfully to call us all out on. Sometimes I don't know that I need this. My therapist has never told me that I need this. Sometimes I need a little blue bear to tell me about, like, the bugs that talk to them in their room, which is just something I did not know I needed. And then other times, like, to have that, and for me as well, like, with James, I call Animal Crossing, there was this thing that my father once said to me after I had a very anxious week about an assignment I had to do in high school, and I call it an elephant burgers game, which is deeply upsetting for me as a vegetarian. He said, basically, the elephant burgers theory, I've got no idea if my dad made this up or if this is an actual thing or if he's reappropriating another great moral lesson. But basically, the elephant burgers thing is that this elephant dies at this village and they're all like, how are we going to move this elephant? It's cutting off our main track to the road. Our industries are failing, yada, yada, yada. And then one dude comes up with the ingenious idea of like, no, we can't move this whole thing at once. That's ridiculous. What if instead we broke it up and made little tiny things out of it and just tackle them one by one? So they made elephant burgers.
Not grim.
Not grim at all. Please, I do not support the poaching industry.
PSA.
Important message.
PSA. But yeah, that's sort of the takeaway from it is when you're feeling anxious and you're feeling super overwhelmed because it's like, oh, holy shit, I've got all these things I have to do. The world is on fire. Nothing is okay. I can focus on and I can go, hey, I can like go hit this rock and I can collect these 3 like bits of clay. And oh, is that Blair the squirrel? I'll go talk to Blair. I haven't talked to Blair the squirrel yet.
Totally.
And you can go over and you just break it down into little bits. And then before you know it, for me anyway, and I hope that a lot of people can relate, all of a sudden I feel much calmer because it like that to-do list that doesn't exactly exist and those small little tasks I've done have like helped me refocus, helped me recenter, and helped me realize problem's not so big, y'all.
Yeah.
And also just to jump off of that a little bit, it's like there are these kind of like main goals within the game. Like, I mean, there's paying off your home loan and like what are the other kind of big ones?
The museum, I guess, filling up the museum.
Yeah, like kind of getting the buildings upgraded and stuff.
But it's
like,
Island.
Yeah, and it's like you always kind of know in the back of your head that they're there, but there's no rush to get them completed at any time frame, and it's great. I wanted to ask
no one ever
Sarah,
comes hunting for you or anything. So
no.
Yeah, like you're never.
No scorpions.
Yeah, Tom Nook doesn't like guys with baseball bats. Just like show up, you load up the game, and there's just these 2 guys with baseball bats standing outside your house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, one fear.
Crossover with Hotline Miami.
Oh, no.
I can't wait for the GDA patch.
Oh my god, the Doom patch.
Amazing. I would love it.
No, but I did want to ask Sarah. I mean, I know you've kind of done a lot of work with mental health communities and things like that. So have there been any specific instances that you can remember where Animal Crossing has helped people in those communities at all, or?
Heaps. So many. I think one of the biggest things is you can't win the game. So because it's a continual small victories thing, you're always getting that sense of, wow, I've achieved something, even if it's really small. And for a lot of people, having those little victories just really helps them keep carrying on. I think another thing that's so special about playing Animal Crossing within a supportive community is that you're allowed to be yourself in a way that you might not usually in real life. So if you're someone who identifies a certain way, you might decide, hey, I'm going to wear a dress today, or I'm going to try that short hairstyle, or I'm going to dye my hair pink. And for a lot of people, they're not things you can do just out in public, but it's a safer space to experience those things and those changes. And I've seen people have found that really valuable.
It is fascinating, the social language that games develop, and I think the way that like addresses are perfectly a really good example of that. Like I know, myself, I'm pretty much like I wear blacks and greys and occasionally blues, but in Animal Crossing I'm wearing all sorts of colourful shit.
Yeah.
Because like, why not? It looks, and like a lot of that stuff really looks quite amazing, and it's just that is the kind of expression that it just happens in that world, and so it feels like it comes a lot more naturally as well, rather than having to swallow it up and step outside into the real world and do all of that stuff in which
Cool,
and I suppose hopefully like the idea is that maybe this could lead to you building up that courage and becoming and blooming into that person or something that you want to be.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a trial run for these new changes in your life.
And there's a lot that I want to say about the queering of Animal Crossing, because in terms of how they have taken gender locking off of clothing, the way that they will let you use a magic wand to change your physical quote-unquote gender presentation,
the way they made
so
CJ and Flick boyfriends.
Exactly. CJ and Flick in English can easily be read as being boyfriends, which is really special. And the way that this has a parallel with the rise of cottagecore as a movement in the hellscape that is 2020, and how cottagecore is a really queer-friendly sort of culture as well, where it's an idea of a nostalgia for something that you didn't have. It's an idealization of like a low-tech world, which I think is much more interesting than a low magic kind of game space. And it's just so interesting to be like, this is a space where no one will hurt you for what you want. Like, no one will hurt you for what you look like. And what's really nice, as an anxious person in this year, is that my life is actually a lot closer to Animal Crossing than it is to Dragon Age Inquisition, and I love both of those games. So Animal Crossing is a nice reminder that you can just have that little moment in your day, or just focus on a small group of people that love you. You don't need the approval of a whole country or a whole world kind of thing, but you can just have a little crew and you can support each other, and I think that's just real freaking nice.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And I think it also it gives you this autonomy as well, and control over your environment, which is, I think, has kind of gotten away from us a lot this year, so it really could not have been released at a better time.
I mean, you have more control than ever now. You can terraform the entire island if you want. You can control mountains, or you can just control what your house looks like. You have as much or as little control as you would like.
Yeah, I think as well. Sorry, go.
No, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Anxious people, we struck again.
I'm so sorry, everyone, for just talking. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for being here.
In a world, there is something, and I'm sure someone much more articulate than I can articulate this in a much more succinct way. But there's something to be said in a time when we are experiencing an unprecedented global trauma on several scales. Everything is so out of our control. There's so much, especially in Western world, so much political unrest that as a tiny anxious person, I feel so unable to affect for so many different reasons. And then on top of that, you are someone, I don't want to generalize too much about the player base, but someone generally under the age of 40, often the game has a huge resonance with LGBTQI plus people as well, and all of that you can finally have a tiny bit of control, and you are not punished for having that control. In fact, it's encouraged, don't get me wrong, but no one bats an eyelid at it so much. It's just so normalized that, of course you're changing the island. That's really great that you're doing that. I'm just going to go over here and sweep while you do that. There is something to be said for having that much control so normalized and made so mundane in a time when everything feels wildly out of control. And gosh, really did release at the absolute perfect time.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I find it interesting, the user interface and the structure of games that Animal Crossing misses, and how much UI UX testing would have gone into it, because even in Animal Crossing you can sometimes pick up quests where, you know, it's like, okay, you need to go and place a building lot, or you've picked up someone's book and someone's like, this isn't my book, I think it's Frank's book, but you don't get a UI pop-up saying this is your quest and here's a reminder. Like, it's literally just self-determined, keep it in your mind kind of thing. But then there is really conscious UI for new editions like crafting, for example. And for me, the crafting edition has been really gratifying because I'm a complete resource hoarder, and the feeling of comforting abundance that I get by having way too fucking much of
Yeah.
that I will never use all of.
Yep.
And I'm like, you added my extra
Like-
anxious thing that's so good. But the way that crafting has actually added to the reasons why you would play with other players, because previously I wouldn't play with strangers very much. I wouldn't bring strangers into my island, but this is the first time that a comparatively geriatric woman has gone onto Discord to find people to trade my spare DIY recipes with, or someone who is playing in the different hemisphere so I can get the sweet cherry blossom furniture and things like that. And the additions that they've made have been so good for me to have a totally optional but purely nice relationship with other players, and how hard it is to grief other players or be horrible to other players is also really fucking nice, because I avoid the shit out of multiplayer for that reason.
I mean, it's still very possible, unfortunately.
You can still do it, but they have designed and controlled for a lot of the easiest ways to do that.
If you want to be nasty, you're going to have to go out of your way, and maybe because there's so many steps to be an absolutely vile human, maybe along the way you will stop and think about what you're actually saying.
Although I got to
And
admit, if
that's
you manage
clever.
to grief me in Animal Crossing of all games while I'm on your island, I'm probably going to be more impressed by that you have managed to attempt to annoy me in this little wholesome game.
In my haven.
Yeah.
No, but it's really
Like, if you
true.
can actually do something detrimental to my gameplay, like, okie dokie, good for you, buddy.
Obviously, you needed to get it out, so
Yep.
okay. That's how Animal Crossing players are. They're a bunch of totally sickly, pleasant people most of the time.
But it's such a testament to how welcoming the community is as well. I mean, this is with New Horizons, this is kind of the first time that I personally have really gotten into multiplayer.
Same.
Because I remember, like, I used to have Wild World. That was my first. I've talked about this on James's podcast, but that was my first like entry to the series. And I used to, like, occasionally play it if a friend had the game, or if I was, like, over at somebody's house. But I feel like this year I just got, like, bombarded with, like, group chats and events and Facebook groups, and I was very into it. So so it's
the
also
way
been
that the
nice.
game lets you design emergent games, the way people are like, let's have a treasure hunt, and like, I hosted a fashion show, like, it had so many things that let it be a playground kind of a situation where you can play super structured if you want to, and that's super valid, or you can have a complete concept of, my island is actually a murder mystery, and actually just go and do that. And then how much the community celebrates someone doing something very fucking bizarre and specific with their game. And I'm also very much looking forward to seeing how they keep adding more content, more events, more updates. We've already had some really significant fun little updates that have brought me back. And I've played, like, I think about 400 hours of Animal Crossing so far, and right now I'm not on a daily pattern, but I am very happy to be coming back to it occasionally and having it just be there when I super need it. And I think that that's beautiful. A game that isn't like, there's only one good way to play it. Like, I think a lot of new Animal Crossing players got very overwhelmed thinking, like, I want the game to go faster, or when do I know that I'm done? Or people feeling bad for pausing, and there are things to say about telling anxious people that you're disappointed in them. Don't do that.
Do not recommend.
Do not recommend. But still, I think a lot of us will still keep coming back to it, which I think will be very, very nice. And I think we will see some significant updates come. So I'm looking forward to seeing that continue.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm super excited for more updates. I mean, even the Dream thingy at the moment, like, I haven't tried it yet, but that is my number one reason I want to go back and have a look at the moment, because the idea of, like, a more accessible way to see what everyone's doing, because that's my highlight. I love just going on tours of different islands and getting this look at how other people live.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also like, I am one of those people with Animal Crossing where I'll tend to look at what somebody else is doing and just be like, my island isn't good enough, or, you know, I don't have this and I don't have that. But I think if we look at it like, not so much comparing, but just taking inspiration from, it could really like change the way we interact with each other in the community and stuff.
Something that my my wife does a lot. She plays a lot of Animal Crossing, and like way more than me at this point. And she's like, she had an incredible island at one stage, and then just decided to go and rebuild it. And she's kind of been in the process of that for a little while now. But I think like when it comes to the community and the multiplayer aspect of like you know, going to people's islands and seeing their inspiration and seeing their bursts of creativity, which are often really fantastic. Like, there are some incredible islands that people have made and some wonderful displays of creativity, which I often feel like games, especially these kinds of games that give you a little bit of space, but like to create something in, but they give you a very specific set of rules to work within, often bring out some of like the more creative ideas. And I think some of the creative ideas that we've seen people express have been really fantastic, like in terms of you know, like dig sites or people holding swap meets or something. I know that's something that you've done a bunch, Lauren, and a few other folks. And I think that aspect of it, like that multiplayer / community aspect of it, really shines through in this particularly in New Horizons. I know there were like flashes of this in New Leaf, but New Horizons does it so much. Well, I mean, it's built for the system, right? Like the Switch is kind of built for that sort of stuff. So yeah, that aspect of it has been such a huge part of what has defined what Animal Crossing is, like for us and for me in particular, in that it's become, you know, for a while there it became the game that we used to reach out to friends and to talk to people and communicate and just sort of feel like we were hanging out, because for a while there it was the only way that you could do that. And for some of us it still is, exactly. Yeah, for many of us in the world it still is. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot to be said about I think the community side of Animal Crossing and where they take it, as well as where, you know, the game's sort of updates and things could take it to. It's been really fascinating sort of seeing that grow.
Have any of you guys...
2020,
sorry.
It's really... sorry, my lag keeps on me. I speak over people.
You go.
But in 2020, it's extremely important to let go of the idea of achieving or getting good at something or doing well at something right now, and just retooling all expectations to be around survival, looking after the people that you can look after, looking after yourself. And Animal Crossing is one of those games that just really firmly lets you do that. There's lots of power fantasy games, there's lots of games with leaderboards and things like that, but when you just need to make it small, make it little, make it nice, you know, like the message in Animal Crossing is do what makes you happy. Like that's literally the only way to do the right thing in Animal Crossing. And, you know, living in 2020 is 100% the same way.
I think that's such a key point of why it's a good game, because like it's all about doing what makes you happy. Like that's the entire game. Other video games will be like, hey, here's June Guy, go bust up some demons or whatever, and Animal Crossing is just like, no, what do you like? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
And I like that. Games need to ask me what I like more. It's a two-way street.
And it's true, like, and it makes you ask yourself, like, what do I need in this moment? because I think like some days you'll play it and you'll go, oh, today I'm going to do like a whole terraform, you know, job and do this whole section of my island and make this big project. And then some days you're like, I just want to pick my weeds. And I think it kind of helps you tune into what you need mentally as well in this like weird way.
Absolutely.
It's a game that celebrates the moment. You know, it's sort of and some people, I think for those of us who've played a lot of Animal Crossing, this can this can sort of grind on you just a little bit, but it does take its time to do things, and it takes its time to explain things to you, and it really keeps you in that moment, whether you want to be in there or not. You know, and in some cases, I think that's good. In some cases, I think that's, you know, that's helpful for people, and you know, just to take that second, let's just slow down and just let's go through the dialogue.
The tension and the release and the task and the reward goes at different momentums in Animal Crossing in a very purposeful, very satisfying way, where you'll collect things and then sell them when you want to and get that kind of reward. But past a certain time at night, you'll have to put it in a box or something and get paid differently and things like that. So it's still putting a little bit of gentle pressure that maybe there's a better time slightly, but it doesn't matter too much. And then something that's really exciting, like shooting stars, and then doing your little wish on a shooting star, but you have to wait until the next morning to collect the star. So there's such a range. Or even like you're excited for the next villager to come, or you're excited for the villager you hate to move out, but you're going to have to wait quite a long time.
Or even like seasonal events, like the snowmen and stuff, which I never got right, but you know.
Yes.
It's not about getting them right. It's about having a fun conversation with a snowman.
But I want the item.
That's so. I think that a game that makes you pause is such an important, beautiful thing that a game is able to do. For me, if I, not to get vulnerable on main, but for me, two key components of my therapy has been over the past few years and understanding my casserole of mental health. It is not delicious.
I call mine a cocktail.
Oh,
fancy.
That's fun. There's a little bit of lime in there.
I'll let you use that one.
Thank you. One of them has been, it's okay not to do this right now. And that has been, as a very type A personality, a Leo, whatever you, that has been one of the hardest things I'm still learning and still unpacking. It's okay to wait. And sometimes you have to wait for the thing to actually happen. It doesn't have to happen right this second. Animal Crossing is a game that embodies that part of cognitive therapy so well and so subtly in a way. It's, even though it's like a core loop, it's so incredible how it does that. The second one being, you don't have, it kind of feeds into the first one. So the first one's about pausing and waiting. The second one is, you can enjoy this moment. It's okay to take 5 minutes, a few hours, a day, a week to just enjoy what's happening now and just make peace with what's happening and just pause, reflect, and ask yourself the question of, how does this moment make me feel? And just enjoy that. I cannot think of another game that makes me do that. I struggle to think of many real life examples that make me do that.
Totally agree.
But I think that's something that Animal Crossing just truly succeeds at, and has succeeded at for me in teaching me those lessons.
That's one of the things that I feel, and I'm not judging the time skippers. I want to put it out there that I do not care if you time skip. This is not shade. No, but I think that that's something that people who do time travel miss out on, is like having those moments of like, I waited for this, and it makes it all the more special when you have waited so long for that thing.
It's also, and this is so niche to me as a game developer, I sit at a desk 8 to 5:30, 8 to 4:30, 8 to 4 o'clock most days, I work with screens. I am now mostly a digital artist. My passion is all on a screen, and I usually I'm stationary with these screens for a very long time. It is so nice that this game is like not really anything you can do else today after like sometimes 15 minutes. The relief that it gives me is, and I know that's very specific to my situation and my setup, but I have seen a lot of other like artists talk about it online, where it's like, as digital artists, there's now talks of like, how is our screen time and our desire to share constantly what we're working on, how is that affecting us mentally? And it is very refreshing to have a game where it's like, actually, man, you don't have to spend 10 hours playing with me.
Yeah.
Actually, man, like, you might rack up 400 plus hours on me. It's not because you've spent 24 hours day after day playing me. It's because you've checked in, like, for sometimes only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can't grind to get good kind of thing.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. There is no getting good at Animal Crossing. Like, even if you make it an absolutely beautiful town, that's like more of a reflection of you than being good at the game.
The real get good was the good mental health practices you learned along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I played 600 hours of Animal Crossing. What the fuck is up? Yo. Check out my shit.
I love it.
Check out my frame perfect Animal Crossing speedrun.
I find it really interesting because I think we're all people that work in fairly creative industries, and a lot of the time when we do have to use the creative sides of our brains, it is to like meet a goal or a deadline, or, you know, if it's work related, it's something that is like structured and that has to be done in a certain way. But I think with Animal Crossing, it's understandable that we would lean towards it because it's like this, it's like Lauren said, like, it's a playground, you know? It's just this space that encourages creativity. It's kind of similar to how I felt playing Dreams this year.
Oh yeah, that's a
If
good
anybody else
comparison,
plays
actually.
that
I want to check that out a lot.
Dreams is a great
so
example of that.
good.
There's a lot of excellent stuff in Dreams. It's there's a bunch of like really great games that have just come out, like, that are really perfect for this sort of. I've been playing a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
How is that?
It is, like, not to derail this, but it is just beyond anything I could have imagined. It might be the most incredible technological achievement I've experienced. Like, it's really, really hard to describe. But I promise you, if you get a chance to play it, just get up in the air, put on all the assists. It doesn't matter. Get up in the air and just go and fly over your house, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Can Isabel be my co-pilot? Is there a mod for that?
Let's ask her. She's right here. I think she's. No, she's quiet. She's got no further announcements for today.
Will there be a shooting star show
really
tonight?
Practical, very intense flight simulator game, and then you're like, and here is my dog cushion.
Yeah, right? The duality of man.
The duality of man. The Doom Isabel crossover.
Oh,
Yes.
when?
My little marketer brain was so tingly about that. I loved it.
I can
So
imagine.
much. I still love it to this day. Like,
It is.
it just delights me.
When two brands decide that they can play nice with each other and that there is little crossover when it comes to the intensity of their core fans, so they can just safely play and support each other without the executives coming down and saying that you're splitting your audience.
Yeah.
Bravo, everybody.
I
Bravo.
swear it reminded me of like when Old Town Road came out, and like all of the people in hip hop and country were just banding together for that small moment in life, and it was like, this is what we need.
That's what we need.
If it's not too like gross or gauche, I wanted to trust on that brand crossover, because I think there's something so, if I may give 2 examples, but there's something to be said for the utter unified delight Animal Crossing fans felt when the Doom guy and Isabel were sort of confirmed as friends versus like KFC and Wendy's going, we have an island and you can visit it for free chicken. And just kind of trying to understand and missing that mark a little bit. I know some people were excited about it, but I have my own opinions about that.
Dystopian nightmare to me.
Yes.
I feel it's like, that natural sort, like, it occurred very naturally just because their release dates were on the same thing, whereas, marketing is always going to be marketing.
What I really loved was the fan communities coming together. A lot of the fan art and stuff around that, like Isabel sitting on Doomguy's shoulder and him showing her like a triple-barreled shotgun, and just like those, like this fantastic crossing of worlds. That stuff I found really, really wholesome and fantastic.
And I mean, for me personally, it's funny because Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal give me very similar feelings to playing Animal Crossing, because I played both of but playing the recent Doom games on easy in a really low risk environment and just tearing through demons with, like, I'm very unlikely to die. I can just tear through demons with a bunch of ammo, and I know I'm very safe doing so, and it gives you that sort of powerful, almost relaxing sensation that I get from playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
it's
that's
that sort of
interesting
control of my situation and the fun I have of, like, tearing demons apart is the same fun I have building a really cute bathroom.
It sounds to me like that all kind of revolves around control and that feeling of, like, I have the power to make choices here, and I will be the one to affect these choices.
What do you
I'm
think?
really looking forward to seeing, like, the enormous success of Animal Crossing and how that then trends and influences games that are coming out. Designers that will have this as one of their really formative games that they played when they were in that teenage band of, sink it right into my lizard brain. And I think a lot of designers are realizing that there are systems and things that you can purposefully do that will give certain emotional rewards or certain emotional states that might be quite unexpected. And like Animal Crossing fans can be very intense about the collection drive or about their creativity, and the play times really destroy the idea of, like, what is a hardcore gamer and things like that as well. So I think it helps game developers let go, and to just be like, a wholesome game doesn't mean that there has to be flowers and color, and a emotionally safe game doesn't mean that there's no killing, but it's all the context of, like, how does the universe treat you? How are you positioned in the universe? Like, are you centered? Are you a hero? Are you an NPC kind of a situation? But it's been such a hugely successful game that I'm already seeing deals get approved for things that are a lot more wholesome, and publishers that are like, well, I didn't grow up idealizing this, but it does well commercially. And so as much as capitalism sucks, games like these being successful will have very interesting benefits as we go.
I feel like we're already seeing it too, like the wholesome direct and stuff like that. We're already seeing wholesome as a genre explode, basically.
It's been really wonderful for me to talk to about people who don't necessarily play games. When I tell people who aren't absorbing games 24/7 like we are about Animal Crossing, and I explain it to them that it's a game without violence, and it's not like another game I'm very passionate about, The Sims. It's not like that. All of a sudden people become very interested and engaged. It's not an alienating thing. As much as we like to think that games are for everybody, and for the record, they absolutely should be. There's no reason why video games can't be for everybody. We have to admit, as developers, marketers, and journalists and personalities affiliated with games and who work in this creative space, how the culture we've cultivated around video games and the stories that are outside of our bubble, the ones that a mainstream audience thinks that we are telling, are quite alienating. Like, as a queer woman growing up in a town with barely any internet, I had no reason and no desire to ever play Call of Duty, which was like one of those big games at the time that was like, this is video game. So telling people that a game like Animal Crossing exists starts to open those doors and starts to have those conversations. I got my therapist excited over it, which feels very fitting for this
I love that.
A lot of therapists have been educated this year on Animal Crossing, it's safe to say.
I would like to take this moment to apologize for the whole profession. But it makes me really excited, because now that we're getting mainstream audiences who don't who aren't hardcore gamer TM to start to understand and to play these games, what is that going to greenlight 10 years from now? What is going to be those big AAA milestone games? And already you're seeing that influence bleed into things, and I don't want to encase this panel in amber for future archaeologists, but there were some games announced this morning as part of a DC Comics event, and already I can see influences from games that aren't necessarily AAA beat-em-ups, trailers for these games that I never would have hoped to have seen 10 years ago. And I really hope, and I truly believe games like Animal Crossing are going to lead to some very exciting, bigger, green-lit, bells and whistles cinematic style games like 10 years ago.
Agree.
And I know that we're running out of time, but if you are someone that has a Switch and you've played a lot of Animal Crossing and then you're looking for the next thing to do, I'm really excited for Best Friend Forever coming out.
Yes.
So
I'm
more
so excited.
wholesome, more colorful,
August 27.
It's
so soon. Pick cheese ball or bust.
Yeah.
And so,
Cheese balls
so if you do have Animal Crossing and you're looking for the next thing to pick up, a lot of people have gotten a Switch for Animal Crossing, and the Nintendo Switch is a great console for more wholesome, more tender, nice, colorful, sweet experiences as well.
Springboarding off that, I'd also like to recommend A Short Hike, which is
very good.
Yes.
I still need to play it.
I admit I still need to play it, but I watched my husband start and finish this game in about 45 minutes last night, and it was the most wholesome and pure experience. Big Animal Crossing vibes. You are an adorable little bird girl, and
the
isn't that what
music
we
is
all
so
want?
similar to
So
Animal Crossing.
amazing.
I will play it.
I think, you know what, I think it speaks to what games are capable of in a broader sense, and I think that while the conversation is shifting, it's like it is still like kind of hard for a lot of people to understand that like this game about living in this anthropomorphic town is like so popular, you know, but we are seeing that games like A Short Hike and Animal Crossing are gaining just as much popularity as the AAA titles, and people are just as excited about them, if not like crazier. So
if we talk I was going to say if we talk about games like fine art, I'm going to put on my art school hat for 5 minutes. If we talk about games, how we talk about fine art periods, which I find it very ridiculous that we don't, but that's a whole other talk. If we talk about games like art periods, at the moment, in a mainstream broader pop culture context, we really only have one art period. And I know that's going to make a lot of people very upset. But put yourself in the shoes of a 45-year-old woman who's someone's mum who has a 14-year-old boy. To you, there is one video game, and it's shooty, looty. There is nothing else. It's kind of ridiculous that we only have one art period. But if we start to look at games now, maybe this is something else. Like if we borrow the term cottagecore, this is us moving into another genre of painting. Maybe this is us moving into our impressionist period. And I think if we start treating games like that, I think we're going to get some more diverse, more interesting, not only visuals. As an artist, I have to put that out there, but just games as a whole. And I think, yes, that's very, very exciting.
Totally. I think we are coming up to time now. Does anybody have kind of anything else that they want to kind of voice before we do the wrap up? Or
other than I think the sweaters in Able Sisters, the fashion in this game did not have to go as hard as it went. So good. I'm so glad it did.
Agreed.
I'm delivering looks like I've never delivered in real life.
Awesome. So where can everybody find you guys?
So I would say that Twitter is the easiest for me. So I am at Laurclinn, LAURCLINN.
I am on Twitter as well. That's the best place to find me also. And you can find me using the moniker Lucy Crime Fighter, spelled LUCYCRIME, fighter without the E at the end.
you can find me at j_Swinbanks, or you can find my podcast, Video Game Small Talk, on, I don't know, anywhere you can find podcasts.
It is an excellent podcast.
It's a very good podcast. You can find me at Steam Jamboree. One at preferably, but at Steam Jamboree on Twitter.
You can find me at Sarah_Crowe, like Russell Crowe, has an E at the end. I'm also, I'll give a quick shout out to Patch, my community. They might be watching this. If they are, hello. When this airs, we're just about to hit our 5-year anniversary, which is cool.
Oh,
So
congrats.
if you want
Yay!
a nice, wholesome mental health community, come hang out.
It's wonderful.
Awesome.
I just might do that. Thank you.
You're all welcome.
And you can find me at Emmy_Shiel, EMI_SHIEL. And I mainly live on Twitter, so that is my home. Awesome.
You should find healthier places to live.
Yeah, look. It's where I get all my news from at this point.
I'm trying to give TikTok
Unfortunately.
That might be the
go.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for putting this together. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much to PAX for the opportunity.
Thank you, Pax, and thank you, Emily.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
time.
Emily and
Bye.
Pax and Animal Crossing and everybody here.
Bye. Thank you for
Bye.
watching.